Welcome back, everybody. Decision day, of course, today. The polls are now open in the state of Florida. And my next guest says whoever takes Florida is likely to become the GOP nominee. That's Lenny Curry. He's the chairman of the Florida Republican Party. That's part of the reason he says that. Nice to see you, Lenny. Thanks for being with us.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Okay, so you look at the polls, and we have this thing called political insiders for each state. And when CNN does their GOP political insiders, Romney is winning. Who will win the Florida primary is the question. Romney at 43, Gingrich 4. Is there any reason in your mind to think that this poll is incorrect?
I mean, all the polls that I've seen show Romney up. There are varying spreads, but going into the seat, looks like Romney's got it based on polls. That being said, we've seen a lot of surprises and a lot of volatility this primary season, so we're going to have to wait. The game is played on the field, so to speak, and that will be when the votes are cast and counted tonight.
Oh, I love when people use sports metaphors to talk about politics. You know, when you look at this same poll for the GOP political insiders, and they talk about biggest obstacles for the two frontrunners. Biggest obstacle, easy for me to say, for Newt Gingrich in the state of Florida, 63% say he doesn't have the right temperament to be president. Look at the biggest obstacle for Mitt Romney in the state of Florida. Perception that he has changed his views on key issues. To me, that says some of this mudslinging is really sticking among the electorate. Do you worry about how ugly it's gotten?
Well, look, the negative ads have been running now since the candidates have been in Florida. I think it's old news. The silver lining in all this is that we have basically vetted our guys internally. I don't like the negative ads, but they're not throwing anything at each other that the Obama campaign re-elect team will eventually throw at them. So it'll be old news by the time we get to the general election.
So let me ask Tom Davis this. He's basically saying it makes your candidate stronger. And I think we've seen Mitt Romney actually get there.
This is spring training. The election's in November. Memories are short. So it allows the Romney campaign to make those adjustments, get your answers, see what sells at this point.
But isn't there a different weight when your own guys are throwing those barbs versus someone from the opposing party?
Well, a little bit. I mean, it hurts you a little internally, but look, you have a long time to recover. This race, it's an eternity between now and November.
When you have the candidates going at each other, calling each other unethical, calling each other dishonest, they basically have written the Democrats' ads for them, and I think that is ultimately what's going to hurt the party.
I'd love to ask Lenny, you know, a couple of weeks ago, Soledad, and not a couple of weeks ago, 1 week ago, the polls were much different.
Like a few weeks ago.
Newt Gingrich was winning, coming out of South Carolina handily in Florida. So I know we've all guessed over the past week what happened, but in Florida, what happened? If you had to say one thing, is it this message about Fannie and Freddie that Newt's tied to the housing bubble burst? Or what is it, just the plethora of ads? What is it, the money? What happened in Florida?
Let me tag on it. It looks to me like the spending advantage that Romney had allowed him to get his message across a lot better than Newt was able.
All right, so Lenny, why don't you answer both of those? What do you think happened to Newt Gingrich, and how much of that was correlated to just the massive amounts of money that Romney's been able to spend?
Well, I mean, I haven't seen a poll as to why voters have started to break towards Mitt Romney, but what I've been saying all week is that whichever candidate connects with the voting public, with all demographics, and makes the case for free enterprise and how families can basically have a better lot in life for their families and the next generation, would win the primary. So if I were to guess, I'd say Romney's making that case right now and connecting. Who knows what will happen on the campaign trail today?
You know,
look, I can't take sides. I can't take sides.
You always say that. I can't take. You always say that. I know. We know.
But I have to be able to rally all of our troops around our nominee, regardless of who that is, when we get to the convention.
When you look, there's an article today in the New York Times, which is called, I think, A New Tenor for the GOP, and they sort of look forward, and they say after Florida, here's what's going to happen. You're going to have fewer debates, and that gives a disadvantage to Newt Gingrich. There are, you know, focus on national polls versus state polls. That's going to give an advantage to Newt Gingrich, although I think that's changing a little bit. Fundraising, that's going to go great guns for Mitt Romney, and you have to have amazing vision to see that tiny little graphic from here. And delegate chase is also going to give an advantage to Newt Gingrich, to Santorum, and also Ron Paul. So do you think, first of all, that assessment is true, Lenny? And do you think, you know, and so who ends up being the victor out of that?
I think that at some point we're going to have a person that clearly has a path to winning the nomination, and that all of these statesmen, at some point, they're all going to recognize that we need to rally around a person. It's too early to say who that person will be, but they understand that the big goal is to take back the White House. and at some point stop killing each other.
And the big, I think the $64,000 point in that was at some point stop killing each other.